Cloud gaming and lag, latency. That is the delay between performing one action and realizing results. This is, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle that will hold back cloud gaming, and cloud gaming has recently made itself in major tech news, with Google set to roll out its Stadia service later this year in 2019, and subsequently roll it out worldwide by 2021, using a combination of AMD GPUs and Intel CPUs, where if you haven't seen that video already, then I'll put the link up here. It does have the necessary power to deliver smooth gameplay via the cloud. Furthermore, competitors that have already had these services in place, like NVIDIA GeForce Now, for example, which has been in beta for 6 years and is available only in North America and Europe, hasn't changed the market, really, at all. Steam Link was a piece of hardware that Steam tried to roll out in 2018, and it flopped, quickly entering the discontinued phase. However, they are trying to reboot the service, this time without requiring the hardware, though the same issues that face Stadia have already faced Steam and NVIDIA, and that is this what gamers really want? I know me personally, I am very sensitive to input delay, and using something that even has 50 milliseconds of delay in it will almost trigger me. My whole desktop is built up for low latency, from using a Logitech mouse to an overclocked machine to a low latency monitor. I just don't like input lag, full stop. Any second wasted, especially wasted in regards to staring at a blank screen, is the worst kind of waste possible. So in many ways, part of me is very curious to trial out this service, though as humans, I feel like we have a tendency to fall into what I call the upgrader's misfortune. And by this, I mean once we experience something that is faster and better, pulling back to the previous item that was slower and inferior that we previously enjoyed no longer has that same level of excitement and joy, simply because we experienced something better and superior. I feel like this in itself will be the biggest phenomena holding Google Stadia back, and whether or not they are ready to break this barrier remains to be seen. Current demonstrations have the input lag with numbers showing that of roughly 90 milliseconds, and I'm sure this is Google's best case scenario, being it a showcase from Google themselves. Though interestingly enough, demos are now coming out showing the mouse movement in real time, followed by the transition of frames, and you can clearly see a delay. Forget accurately measuring it, it's obvious if you blatantly see it on a YouTube demonstration video, then it's clearly there. Though on the flip side, one advantage is if we look at the current multiplayer scape of gaming, you still have to connect to a server and transmit the data back and forth. If the server and game streaming locations are at the same location, then it could mean multiplayer gaming wouldn't be affected anywhere near as much as single player could be. Though on the same token, sometimes multiplayer games are client-side based rather than server-side based. In other words, the input latency feel is heavily mitigated by reacting to actions and input completed on the user's side instantaneously. Digital Foundry, however, did an amazing video talking about the specs and latency itself. I'll put the link to that video up here if you haven't seen it already, though basically they had an opportunity where they got a 240 FPS camera and measured the latency based off the delays they experienced on Google Pixel books using Google Stadia and the response times in-game. And they found there was roughly, and this is of course rough science, so it could be quite a bit lower or higher based on real-world rollout, that the Stadia projected 166 milliseconds of total input latency. That's the total input lag altogether, with display, monitor lag, and Wi-Fi included, though the Wi-Fi was on a 200 megabits per second connection, and it shouldn't be adding much delay at all. This stacked up versus Project Stream's estimated 200 milliseconds with input delay, a PC running 30 FPS, which is horrible might I add, at 133 milliseconds versus 100 milliseconds for 60 FPS on PC, versus Xbox One X at 166 milliseconds, counting in roughly a monitor with 21 milliseconds input delay. Though the figures that do confuse me a little here is that I do my own in-house testing, and input lag during CSGO testing, for example, with mouse actualization on a 1000 FPS camera on the right setup can go as low as 10 milliseconds for total system input delay, which for me personally and many tech enthusiasts who play PC games would show a massive difference if they went from this to Google Stadia, one that could be quite hard to adopt. Another issue brought up was, of course, since it's a streaming technology, the quality of the graphics will be compressed. since the data will be transmitted by the internet. Though initial impressions have put it at having only a slight reduction in quality, that's barely noticeable, though on the flip side, a big benefit of streaming with Google Stadia is that they can utilize what they call multi-GPU technology, and not in the traditional sense of SLI or Crossfire, but more in the sense of using additional GPUs when needed. 3D Mark collaborated with Stadia to release a special demonstration that uses one GPU for the classical geometry and traditional rendering, and then calls upon another GPU when needed for further complex simulations and rendering of complex particles. Though actually the biggest thing I took out of this demo was that the Fire guy finally won. Rock on, you know, the poor guy finally got the W as opposed to Firestrike where he lost, so there, take that, Iceman. Though on a serious note, it could be a good catalyst to push PC developers to better utilize multi-GPU setups, as we have seen with gaming trends that PC gamers have heavily moved back to single graphics card gaming setups, myself included. Though, regardless of the latency issues, there are many eye-opening opportunities that Stadia does present. The biggest one for me is cracking down on hackers, especially in FPS games where people speed hack, aimbot, and wall hack. I even caught some of this footage in Apex Legends of my teammate literally teleporting around the map and winning the game before I could even confront an enemy. Stopping online hacking puts everyone at an even playing field, which is what online competitive multiplayer gaming is supposed to be about. Though other benefits, of course, include real-time co-op with your partner's point of view, interactive and dynamic two-way control, in that you can instantly help out your teammate if they allow you to by controlling their character, and it does add to the level of immersiveness very quickly. And we haven't even looked into VR capabilities yet, nor let alone the seamless streaming integration with YouTube Live, and the ability to join empty slots with your favorite streamers if they allow you to. I believe they're also allowing simultaneous streams too, so you can essentially play the same game and character of two different people at two different locations. That would be weird, kind of like feeling what it would be like to be an ogre magi. That's the ogre with two heads on one body though. Anyway, lastly, I think the best thing to possibly come out of Stadia would be the opportunity and ability for those on a low income to be able to actually stream due to poor PC specifications where they otherwise couldn't stream. It could essentially unearth the next best pro gamer that could have never been. So it seems that Google is going all in with this service, planning to roll it out ultimately to over 200 countries plus, with the initial shots of the server rooms showing massive investments in this hardware, though one does have to wonder lastly, using that many Vega 56 reference models in one warehouse, I don't think it's a matter of if, but when will the building take off and start flying around the world, perhaps even offering a fly-at-home in-stream service. Google Stadia, these possibilities, they're endless. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments section below what you think about the input delay and the latency. Is it really going to affect the gaming experience? Me personally, I'm very sort of weary of it. I think the first time I try this is gonna be make or break. I can't wait to try it, honestly. I think it's so like revolutionary if it does work, but if it doesn't work, then it could be one of the biggest flops in history. Who knows? Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.